opportunities that inspire them to develop these important skills. How can my car go faster? Maybe your child will figure it out. Find out more at connectamillionminds.com.
Get a front row seat to New York's music scene, from mainstream musicians to underground artists and everything in between. Every Tuesday and Wednesday on Time Warner Cable News, we bring you album and concert reviews, music festivals, backstage access, and exclusive interviews.
That's my favorite music. Those late 60s when you had rock meeting pop.
We keep our ear to the streets when covering special music events around the city. Sound Advice, Tuesdays and Wednesdays on Time Warner Cable News, New York 1.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. With the mercury on the rise, violence has also sharply increased in some city neighborhoods, several of them in central and eastern Brooklyn. That uptick has lawmakers and elected officials and community leaders all searching for answers. Just yesterday, Mayor de Blasio and city officials unveiled a plan to reduce crime and help improve living conditions in public housing developments. Joining me now to talk more about that, we've got Eric Adams. He's a former member of the NYPD who's now Brooklyn Borough President. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Good. Great seeing you, Errol.
For putting on your old hat, what do you think is going on? Why are we seeing an upcrease? I mean, there's an interesting question about why more shootings but not an increase in fatalities. Put that aside.
Right.
Why more shootings? Why more violence?
Over proliferation of handguns. Summer months, you see increase in violence. More people are out on the streets. We always prepare for the summer months. Some people like to point to stop and frisk. Police officers are still doing stop and frisk in a legal fashion that is supposed to be done. We have a great police commissioner who's really the architect behind the broken window concept application. We're going to be fine. You're going to see him adjust the new initiative of officers coming out on patrol. And remember, many of these officers who are coming from desk duties, they're seasoned career officers. You don't go to a desk duty until you have spent time on the street. So I think you're going to see the appropriate response. Okay,
that's reassuring. Let's talk about something else in public safety that you brought up just this week, which is that we've had a number of drownings. That also happens every summer. You're proposing that we figure out a systematic way to make sure everybody knows how to swim, all the kids.
It's important. It should be part of the lesson plan inside our school system. When you look at the numbers, that under the age of 5 is the leading cause of death for young people, and this is a global issue. And what's also interesting is that many of the victims of drowning and who don't know how to swim, they come from poorer communities. And I spoke with the parks commissioner in Brooklyn today to talk about how do we get more funding to some of our free sites. The city has great free sites to teach swimming. We need to ensure that people are swimming at the right location, receive the necessary instruction, and really understand we are a city that's surrounded by a body of water. We don't want to lose human bodies in that water.
Well, there's big pools like the one in Red Hook and stuff like that. But I mean, I looked into it for, if you want to sign your kid up to learn how to swim, and it's a very, very limited list. I mean, they can take a few people, but unless you're, camped out weeks in advance or something like that, there's no way to do it. Do you think we can do something at scale so that almost every kid is learning how to swim?
Yes, we need to increase it. It needs to be part of the overall development of a child, taking swimming lessons. And you're right, when you go to even the St. John Rec Center, which is in central Brooklyn, if you don't camp out overnight, you don't receive the lessons. So we have to have it more accessible, and it should be all year round phenomenon. We need to partner with our schools, allow the pools that we do have they should be open to allow young people to swim.
And it drives me nuts when you've got that, and at the same time there's a lack of lifeguard. And it's like, well, geez, you could get a kid trained to be a lifeguard. Pretty good work. Pretty good money.
And then when you look at the situation in Prospect Park, it's horrific to lose a 2-year-old, and you can't really blame a family member because I was lost so many times as a child, and these things happen. But what we must do is all become responsible for not only protecting our children, but all of our children. If we see a child moving into harm's way, it is imperative that we take a second step and inform an adult, inform a law enforcement officer, but also to be the eyes and ears for all of our children.
Okay, amen to that. Let's talk about your trip to China. You just spent 11 days over there. How's that going to help Brooklyn? I guess that's the real question.
Well, first of all, it was a great trip, Errol. And I want to touch on the because there was just a repeated story in the New York Post. People need to understand what's the history of this about. My second day in office, I did a press conference when the New York Post put on the front page, "Who didn't want him dead? The Hasidic man." Ever since that day, any opportunity that they can get to make it appear as though I'm doing something incorrect, they have been doing it. Repeated stories, but that is part of the business. The China trip was an amazing trip. This is not my first time to China. This is my third trip. 2 of those trips I went on my own because I have the largest Asian population outside of Asia in Brooklyn. This is not the first organization that has sponsored me to go abroad. I've been sponsored by nonprofits who go to Israel, to Turkey, to Nigeria, also to St. Vincent. These are the populations of Brooklyn. 47% of Brooklynites speak a language other than English at home. The Chinese community came to me from Sunset Park. They stated they want a friendship arch. And they asked me, can I go to China and open trade? Not only the arch, we want to show our young children in school.
Well, yeah, no, there's no question about there are good reasons for a city that Brooklyn, if it was its own city, would be bigger than Philadelphia and so forth.
Fourth largest.
Sure. So no question about that. I think the stories that came out were saying that the Conflict of Interest Board cleared you, I think, the day before you left, which suggested that you were sort of already in motion, and also that it was a member of your staff who runs the nonprofit that funded part of the trip.
And that's what I tell you about inaccuracy. First of all, the Conflicts of Interest Board cleared us long before that. We would not have even started the journey if we didn't believe we can take the trip. We understood the rules. We wanted to make sure we received something in writing. Second thing is, Winnie Greco was not a member of my staff. She's one of the countless number of volunteers. We recruit volunteers to offset the low amount that we are allocated in the Borough President's office. I have an extensive volunteering internship, and I want my interns and volunteers to come from the many communities. I have a large number from the Caribbean community, from the Pakistani and the Yemenis, the entire borough of Brooklyn. And so when you hear people distort the reality and what really happened,
what is the reality then?
She's a volunteer. She's not a paid employee of Borough President. She's one of the many volunteers.
On the question of the arch, I remember hearing Marty Markowitz talk about this all the time. I mean, the Friendship Arch, I mean, my understanding was that he found money in the capital budget for it, that he had talked to Department of Transportation about it.
7 years in the making.
So why go back to China? I mean, it sounds like it's a done project.
Well, no, the arch was only one part of the trip. We visit several different cities. We signed 2 sister city agreements. We sat down with local officials who were there. I have made it clear from the beginning, I am not going to be just a person who's going to be in the borough of Brooklyn. Brooklyn is the 4th largest city. We would like to see commerce, exchange. We want our children to understand that they can communicate not only within the geographical boundaries of their block, they're global communities.
If you could do it again, would you maybe decline money both from the nonprofit and or from the Chinese government?
No, it's totally appropriate. It's like when I went to Israel. Should I decline the nonprofit that paid me to go to pay for the trip to Israel?
Well, depends on who they are and what they want from you.
And it's appropriate. They didn't want anything from me but to be the borough president that represents the entire borough of Brooklyn. Why should I treat...
But you're saying, I don't want to belabor the point, but you're saying at one and the same time that this is going to open up commerce.
Right.
So you say commerce, I'm thinking businesses. I'm thinking about businesses that have an interest. I'm thinking about businesses that might want something from the borough president. I'm thinking about businesses who would then give money to the nonprofit to pay for your trip on an 11-day trip to Asia.
No. And I'm surprised that you were perceived that way when, in fact, it is part of my obligation. In Brooklyn, we have double-digit unemployment. 25% of the borough lives in poverty. I must find ways to bring commerce within the borough of Brooklyn, within the United States, as well as abroad. This is not the only trip I'm going to take. I'm going to take as many trips as possible to let the entire globe know Brooklyn is an international destination. And I'm not going to be a MetroCard borough president. I'm going to be a passport borough president.
Fair enough.
I'm not afraid to go abroad. Let me just say this, Dominic. Yeah. I'm thinking of Dominic. Errol, let me say this. My passport has no more room for visas. I have been traveling abroad. Some people believe a borough president from the inner city must stay in the inner city. I'm not. I'm going to travel the globe to bring business to the borough of Brooklyn, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
Okay. I guess finally, I'm sure you saw this the other day. Part of your stump speech, I've seen you do this. You've basically been announcing for mayor, saying that somewhere down the road, 4 years, 8 years, some years from now, you're only 6 months in this job.
Right. And I didn't announce for
I mean,
me.
I understand, you know, the power of positive thinking, but why tell everybody that you're running for mayor?
No, this is what I'm saying. I want to do a good job as borough president. God willing, I'll be reelected. 8 years down the line, we're going to have a new mayor. I tell children all the time, I did 25 graduations, Errol, and each one of those graduations, I tell them, think big, dream big, be big in what you do. There's nothing we should tell people not to reach for their next level. I'm going to do a great job as borough president. I had a great borough president that I'm following. Brooklyn is the center of the greatness that's happening in the city of New York, and I'm going to be a part of that.
Okay, maybe I should start announcing I'm going to be hosting Meet the Press or
You
something.
should.
Right? Thanks a lot for coming by tonight. We're going to take a short break now. Coming up in the political rundown, Herson Barrero will be joined by a special guest as they weigh in on the Brooklyn District Attorney's new policy on marijuana arrests and much more. Stay with us.
Looking for the latest gadget, gizmo, or doodad? Then turn to Time Warner Cable News New York One every Tuesday and Thursday. We've got the lowdown on the newest high-tech products, plus the latest innovations in computers and tablets, televisions, handheld consoles, and more. Tech Talk, Tuesdays and Thursdays on Time Warner Cable News New York One.
The sports day isn't over till you've watched Sports on One, The Last Word, every night on Time Warner Cable News New York One. We're fans too, and we share your love of the game with highlights, analysis, and coverage of your hometown teams. Hear about the ups and the downs.
You're out.
Watch Sports on One, The Last Word, every night at 11:35, the most complete hour of local sports on Time Warner Cable News New York One.
Looking for a getaway? Something exotic, relaxing, or just for the kids? Join Time Warner Cable News Mondays and Thursdays.
I'll fill you in on some great travel packages from down the street, across the country, or around the world.
Travel Mondays and Thursdays on Time Warner Cable News New York One.
Looking for the latest gadget, gizmo, or doodad? Then turn to New York One. We've got the lowdown on the newest high-tech products. Tech Talk, Tuesdays and Thursdays on New York One.
$14 million.
Math and science are far more than just subjects at school. If you're passionate about cooking food, math and science become part of your everyday life. We learn measurements, we learn fractions. That's why Time Warner Cable created Connect a Million Minds, to show young people that math and science can be fun and lead to a career of their dreams. Whether it's an engineer, a food scientist, or a rock star chef. Visit connectamillionminds.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Neil Rosen, the film critic for New York One. People know me for giving apples when I review movies, but it's gotten to the point where I'm being asked to rate everything. That ride was a little bumpy. I'm giving it 2 apples. Not bad. 3 apples. My compliments to the chef. 4 apples. Catch my movie reviews and celebrity interviews on New York One. Keep practicing. Half a warmy apple.
In a city with as many papers as New York, nobody has time to read them all, except for us.
Here's a look at what's in the morning papers.
We comb the papers from front to back to scope out the stories we think will catch your interest.
We want to start with the Daily News.
And they're not always the headlines.
An interesting follow-up story in the paper this morning. It's on page 18.
Join us every morning for an inside look of what's in the papers. In the Papers is only available on Time Warner Cable News, New York One.
Dramas, comedies, dramedies, action, thrillers, and more. There are hundreds of movies to choose from. Watch Talking Pictures on Demand for your inside guide to the best movies readily available on Time Warner Cable.
I'm Neil Rosen. Join me with my movie critic friends as we explore some of the best movies for you to enjoy on demand.
Talking Pictures on Demand. Saturdays at 12:30 and 5:30 on Time Warner Cable News, New York 1.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where it's time for the political rundown. That's when two very opinionated people talk about 8 topics in the world of politics with just 1 minute for each subject. Here, as always, we've got New York 1 political commentator Herson Barrero.
Holy, 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 hallelujah. I don't have Curtis the prop man here. He's having inserts into his hair. Did you know that? He's having transplants in there?
Oh, one reason that Curtis is not here. Joining us for the first time, Curtis Lee was on vacation. We've got